Lakeshore family, it's Susanna, and I want to talk to you today about the story of Ruth. Perhaps you've read the story of Ruth, or you haven't read it in a while, or you've never read it. Whatever it is, I encourage you to read it this weekend. Ruth is a story that is one of my favorites because Ruth is one of my biblical heroes because she's such an example of what it looks like to have faith and trust God and completely submit her life over to Him. You see, Ruth is living in a time of uncertainty. Can we relate to that? Oh, certainly. We can relate to that in the world that we live in. There is uncertainty all around us. And Ruth is in a similar situation. You see, Ruth, she has lost her husband, and she is now a widow. And in this time and in this culture, she was at a lot of disadvantage for being a widow. And Ruth has chosen to follow her mother-in-law, Naomi, back to Bethlehem. Well, why this is significant is because Ruth is a Moabite. And that means going to Bethlehem, she's going to a foreign land. And so Ruth is walking into a situation where there are far more questions than there are answers. She's completely exiting her comfort zone and the things that are known to her. But see, Ruth, for whatever reason, recognizes something in Naomi that she wants. She sees Naomi's faith. And Naomi tells Ruth, turn around, go back. But Ruth responds and says, no, I will follow you. Not only that, but your God will be my God. You see, Ruth completely submits to God in this situation. And I'm imagining that even though she submits, there's still a lot of questions that are echoing in her mind. I mean, going to somewhere she's never been, where she's a foreigner, I'm sure she's thinking, what will it be like there? Will they accept me? Will they reject me? Will people look at me funny? There's a variety of questions regarding that. And not only that, she's a widow. And so I'm sure she's wondering, what does my future hold when there's so much that I am disadvantaged because I am a widow? Will I ever even be married again? And it's okay for her to ask those questions. It's okay for us to ask those questions. But Ruth goes a step further. She doesn't just ask those questions. She takes a step. And those steps lead her to Bethlehem. And if you read the rest of the story, you come to find out that not only does Ruth meet Boaz and he ends up becoming her husband, but if you go throughout the Old Testament, you find out that Ruth ends up being in the lineage of Jesus. She's in the lineage of Jesus. What a future that she had ahead of her. You see, we live in a lot of times of uncertainty. There's so many questions that we have about our country, about this pandemic, about injustice, and a number of other things. But here's what I want you to take away from this message today. Regardless of the uncertainty, we serve a God who is all-knowing. And all He asks of us is to follow Him. And when we do, though we may still have questions, we no longer have to live with complete uncertainty because we are certain that God has a plan. We may not know every step of that plan. We may just have to take the next step. You see, God reveals His plans to us in a variety of ways. Sometimes He'll give you a long-term picture, and other times He just shows you the next step, and He doesn't even show you where that will lead. But we just have to follow. So this weekend, I encourage you to go and read Ruth's story. Find some nuggets of wisdom from her story that you could apply to your own life. You see, there will always be uncertainty in our world because we continue to live in a world full of sin. But there is one certainty. Jesus Christ died on the cross, and He defeated sin. And 3 days later, He defeated death too, when He rose from the grave. So remember, no matter how uncertain you are feeling about life, You serve a God that's got all of the answers, and He's going to work all things together for good. And we can trust Him because God is faithful. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I hope to see you in worship this Sunday.